What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Monday. Camp is over. It was a very successful camp. A lot of happy faces in the heck, but not satisfied faces, that's for sure, because there's a lot of work to be done before Notre Dame. But so far, so good. Very successful camp. We will be doing position breakdowns, basically post-camp. So where do we stand at all these positions before Notre Dame week, after camp, and just kind of what we're looking at heading into that game. So three big ones today: quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. We'll keep this going throughout the week. Appreciate everybody in the chat. I'll give you a breakdown right here of some of the top accident attorneys in the country. That is Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Andrade and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, good morning. We're getting asked the tough questions early here from Trey Moore, asking if we've gotten the YouTube premium yet, and then asking if everyone's healthy as of yesterday. So really the two questions everyone wants to know. I'll let you take the YouTube one. I'll stay on the health guys, because obviously it's a question we get asked a lot, and we aren't always direct when answering the questions about it. But I'll say this: at this point of camp, through a couple tough weeks here, I would say you're about as healthy as you could be, man. I'm sure. Listen, there's some guys who are banged up, nicked up, but nothing catastrophic from what I understand here. And look, this is without giving too much away, obviously, D. But I think, like you said, people are happy in the heck right now because you still have a couple weeks of practice here leading up to the game. But the hard part here in terms of getting through this really physical nature of practice, I think they're feeling pretty good about where they are.
No doubt. And I'll echo what you said. And look, I'll add this: nobody's healthy in terms of like in the country. You know what I mean? So people are banged up. That's just the nature of the deal. But if you're talking about like where Miami stands relative to where we've been in the past coming out of camp, or where other teams typically are, I think Miami is feeling very, very good. I'm feeling very, very good about where we're at. So that's basically what we'll say.
So what about the YouTube Premium? Well, you
YouTube Premium is on the to-do list. I got to get that done. Now we're not going to practice, every day doing 3 shows just on camp, although we'll be still putting
We'll have it done before the next announcement. How about that?
Yeah, we'll get that thing done. Exactly. There were no more commercials during live streams. I promise you that one. A lot of people in the chat, man. Good morning to everybody. People are fired up on this Monday, man. You can tell it's getting closer to game week. We got this week, and then next week is game week, I guess. I mean, Sunday is the game, but next week is pretty much game week.
Yeah, and you're starting to really get into that game plan. The last week plus of camp there, that in terms of the media viewing, that was really cut out. So they're getting into the nitty-gritty. They're getting into more of the realistic rotations in terms of snap counts, and those reps are kind of going to be mirrored more so for what you expect to see game one. So yeah, man, exciting times here. But let's just get right into the quarterback position, right? Because that was the biggest question in January before you had your guy in Carson Beck, and that was still such a big question through the spring because we didn't see him. He was not out there, still recovering from his injury. But it seems like those questions were answered really quickly when we saw him practice number 1, D.
No doubt. The health stuff, I'm not worried about. The player, I feel very, very confident in. I think what you're seeing with him is the ability to bounce back, resilience, because it's a long camp. So there are going to be days where you're inaccurate or things don't go your way. And we saw with Cam Ward last year. I mean, the same thing would happen with Cam, where there were days where you said, oh, man. In fact, especially this time last year, he had some rough practices leading up to, not so much leading up to UF, but more beginning camp. And Cam did last year, this time, August. So with Beck, what you love is if he has a rough practice, I mean, he comes back dealing. And the talent, the intellect, the ability to pull the trigger and just control the team on the field as the quarterback, as the guy he's looking to. I feel very, very strongly about Carson Beck. I think Miami is going to be high end at this position, and as good as they've been, the last 25 years, again, with the caveat that I don't think anybody's going to replace Cam Ward. He is the best quarterback I've ever seen in Miami, best player I've seen since Sean Taylor. I always have to remind people of that when I talk about Beck, because maybe it's a self-defeating because I want people to stop comparing Beck to Ward. And every time I talk about Beck, I do this disclaimer. So maybe it's my fault.
You already did the Marino comparison. So,
but I mean, I think let's not compare Beck to Ward, because I just don't think it's productive. And even though I do it all the time. So again, I raise my hand. If you just take Beck at what he is, I think you're talking about a guy, first round player, if he can execute what he's capable of on the field. 6'4", great size. Everybody that sees Beck in person, and Pete, you've seen this, but just people who have not been out to practice, coaches, former players, boosters, whatever, when they go out to practice, one of the first things they're going to say is, wow, look at that dude. He is sturdy. He's
big.
He's big. Even Tom Yamas, the lead anchor on the NBC Nightly News, one of the biggest media stars in the country, he went out to practice and he told me, first thing, Beck is big. So that's something you kind of pick up quickly in camp. He moves around very, very well. His legs were never hurt, so his legs are fresh as a daisy. And then the arm, it works, and it's just as powerful as it was on tape when he was projected as the number 1 pick coming out of Georgia. From a passing standpoint, he's a real passer. He can drive the ball. He can layer the ball. He's not like a one-speed kind of passer. You think like a guy who we like, but Stephen Morris, didn't have necessarily all the pitches, right? Whereas Beck does have all the pitches. I think the thing that really, really stands out, the more you watch Beck, and I now have watched him over the course of this entire camp, is the quick release. We had a very quick release with Cam Ward. Maybe not the different angles of Cam, but man, this guy's release is extremely quick. And when he is in rhythm, that ball is flying out. He's a pass-first quarterback. I know people talk about him like, all right, maybe he'll be managing the run game, kind of doing that whole thing, which he will be. He can run a smart, efficient offense, but this guy is a passer. I mean, he wants to pass, and when he gets in rhythm, he really lets that ball go. He does not hold it very long, and he gets it out there quick.
Yeah, and on top of that, this is something that you've mentioned and something that I have heard over the course of practice. Al Lewis, appreciate you. Thank you for your support.
Appreciate you, Al.
Something I heard a lot from yesterday was just how he spreads the ball around, man, and how many different receivers get involved in the offense. And look, that could be a nature of not having a premier number 1 target, but I think it goes to show you that that can keep the defense off balance in a big way, just because he's not locking into a guy. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying that as a negative to the Ward and Restrepo thing last year, but because people said the same thing about Restrepo before that. But I'm just saying in general, I think it gives you more balance in terms of your options offensively.
No question, and it fits with kind of the personnel we have. We'll talk about it a little bit here in receiver, but I think Beck matches that. There are Dorsey similarities. I know it's the same number, whatever, same position, similar size, but I think the one big Dorsey similarity is just how much the ball gets spread out, like you said, and how quickly it does. Dorsey, we all remember the times when Dorsey dropped back and had forever in that pocket with Brian McKinney and Joaquin and all those guys. That's what we remember. But I think really when you talk about Dorsey, what stands out to me is sometimes he wouldn't even get to his back foot and the ball's out. I mean, he was really just, the second he saw it, he was letting go. It didn't always look pretty mechanically. Beck is a lot more mechanically sound, just physically strong, but more talented overall by probably a significant amount, quite frankly. But that's similar, that Beck, he really does get rid of it fast, and you don't know who it's going to. It's not a lock-on situation. He's throwing it to whoever's open, and that's obviously very good for the wide receiving group, where if you get open, you're going to get the ball, and it doesn't matter where you stand on the depth chart necessarily.
Yeah, we aren't getting into tight ends today, but that he's going to have a good connection with that group as well.
Yeah, we'll get into those guys probably tomorrow, but yeah, he's going to throw to those guys, the running backs, who we will talk about here in a little bit. But overall, list of concerns of this team.
And by the way,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say also on Beck, outside of just like the throwing thing, the other question to me that has been, obviously it plays itself out over time, but in our being around and our talking to people, how's he going to fit in the locker room? What's his personality going to be like with the teammates? I know for a fact the defense and him have had a lot of back and forth, verbally and just competitively in practice, and that has been something I think that's raised the level of intensity in a lot of these practices. Offensively, guys have rallied around him, and he will. It's a different style than Cam, but there's more similarities there in terms of that on-field fiery nature than I think people might have said before he stepped on campus.
Yeah, I mean, I think intangible wise, fit with the team, everything is as good as you could hope, and it just seems like good vibes out there. Now, I will bring caveat, as we know, this is football. When you start, if you lose 2 in a row or just things are going wrong on the field, that's when bad teams, less tight teams start the finger pointing a little more. So hopefully it doesn't come to that particular situation, but in general, where there's adversity, you really find out how tight everybody is. So I'm giving that caveat, but as of like right now, as we sit here on August 18th, I love the vibes around Beck, around the wide receivers, or just around the offense. I think everybody knows he's the man, and this is the benefit of having somebody that his name was known before he stepped foot on campus. People knew who he was. And I think that credibility goes a long way, where he doesn't really have to earn the respect of the team. I think once they saw that his arm worked, he was pretty much, hey, this is our quarterback, and we're going to have a chance to win every game we play.
So should we get into the rest of the room? Because obviously there's more than just Carson Beck.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Oh, by the way, Pedro Roman saying, just added you guys on Instagram. Sorry it took me so long. Appreciate you, Pedro. Check out our Instagram, canes.insight on Insta. You know how to find it. At canes.insight. Sorry, not a big Instagram user. P handles that one and gets that thing rolling every day. Morning, everybody. All right, so yeah, the rest of the room. So Emory, I think the thing with Emory you see is he is really becoming a much better version of Emory Williams. People are going to have opinions on his play to this point that they've seen on the field. Obviously, there's been some good, some bad, some kind of training wheels, right, where we haven't seen him fully let go for whatever reason. Is that because he's not trusted to do more? Is that just because of the situation of the game? I mean, we'll see. But I think with Emory, you're seeing him become a much better version of Emory Williams. The 17 to the 8, very slim in number. We always talk about it because it's some of the first things people say when they get out there. It's funny.
And the glove.
But he looks more athletic. He looks leaner. He's been in this program for a while. So 3 summers of strength and conditioning, all that kind of stuff. He's only had Dawson as an offensive coordinator. So entering year 3 of Dawson's system. Very good connection between offensive coordinator and coach. Offensive coordinator and quarterback. I'm sorry. People really like that connection. Shannon Dawson really likes Emory. There's just like a nice fit there between those two individuals. And then, he's played, so his experience level as a backup is probably higher than many, just because he's started games, he's played in games. The last few snaps of the season, meaningful snaps were him, right, in the second half of that bowl game. So I think those are the things he brings to the table. The things he needs to prove is we haven't seen him just get in there and throw the ball a lot. I mean, when he gets in there, he's handing off, he's throwing a lot of screens, he's being protected. I think the ability to get out of the pocket, but just navigate the pocket, make sudden movements, avoid pressure, avoid the cluster and the traffic that comes with the quarterback position. That's really where I think the question is with him. But he looks more athletic. He's running more in camp. He's on an upward trajectory. How high that goes, we'll find out in the games. Hopefully not too early. Maybe hopefully in mop-up time, but we'll find out in the games.
Yeah, Kyle says Emory has more experience than both of the Notre Dame quarterbacks combined, which is an interesting way to look at it. But yeah, I agree with you on Emory. I think it's a tough conversation for a lot of fans to have because our last image of him was just really not good at all, and there's a lot of factors that went into it. People will say the play calling was not in his favor, but even when he had opportunities, he didn't look right. And I think what you're saying in terms of, yes, he's never going to be a guy who takes off and runs for a bunch of yards downfield, but just being a little more fleet-footed in the pocket, being a little bit more dynamic, and that's a strong word, right? Because I'm not saying he needs to be, again, Tom Brady in the pocket even, because Tom Brady was like that was the footwork you see there is crazy, but just step up in the pocket when you feel a little pressure and be confident in making the throw. So I think just physically he's taken that step. When the lights come on, we'll see what happens. He hasn't had, it's tough when you're playing limited football. He played year one, gets hurt, and then doesn't see much live action really. So he's thrown out there in that game. Yeah, he knew he was going to play, so you would have hoped he was a little bit more ready for it. But you're not going to need, especially if it's in a one half, 1 quarter pinch situation, if he needs to come in, if that's what it is, right? You don't need him to do much. You just need him to do more than he did against Iowa State. And people got on me for, I was hyping him up a few weeks ago on here, saying it just in what I saw out of the 7-on-7 stuff, the ball was coming off his hand different. And then he talked about how he's changed his throwing motion. So it wasn't just me seeing things. I'm not saying this guy's the quarterback of the future, but can he do a job for you this year in certain spots? I don't know that it'll work against everyone. If you're in the playoff, I don't know if that's going to work, but I think he can be a bridge along the way this season.
Yeah, and I think there's confidence in him with the offensive coordinator. That's why he's back. Miami fought to bring him back. He could have gone somewhere else and competed for a starting job. Miami wanted to keep him. Shannon Dawson wanted to keep him. So I think these are guys.
EJ says Emory needs to pay me. I can't put it any more plainly than I just said it. I don't know if this guy is the one for the future, but anyone who's seen this guy in camp can tell you it just looks a little different coming off his hand than before. And that was one of our questions before is, man, does this guy even have the arm to fit it into certain spots, right? So to me, again, you're looking for a solid backup quarterback this year, D. Can he do that job for you? I feel like he can.
Yeah, I think any team in the country has a solid starting quarterback. I'm talking about Texas. I'm talking about Miami. I am talking about UF. I'm talking about South Carolina. I'm talking about Clemson. And say solid, I mean a good, like unquestioned starting quarterback. Indiana. All these teams, Oklahoma. When you lose your starting quarterback in that scenario, you're not feeling great. So we hope Carson Beck stays healthy. The question is, can Emory get you through a stretch and win games? I think he would need to play better than we saw against Iowa State, because that was a pretty dumbed down kind of offense, or at least, not a lot of easy throws, a lot of handoffs baked in there. And this still was not enough for what we needed against a defense that was not very good, that was getting completely, delayed in the first half. So we need better than that. He knows he needs better than that. Can he get better than that whilst within his skill set? I think he can. That's what I think we're hopefully seeing here is just more physical improvement. His biggest question, which I've always said since the beginning with him, is just, football is not a straight line, no resistance game. There's people around. You have to move a little bit. You have to adjust your angle a little bit. Sometimes you just have to be kind of loose and fluid with it, which I think Beck can do. Certainly Ward excelled in that way. Emory has gotten more athletic. Now he needs to translate to the field, just making it easier, where Shannon Dawson, who we know likes him and wanted to bring him back, allows him to really expand and not just hand off and throw screens. Because if you get a series of games, God forbid you have to win 4 games in a row with Emory before Beck comes back. Again, Beck is perfectly healthy. I'm just trying, this is backup quarterback discussion. This is what you have to think about. We need Emory to throw more than he threw and better than he threw against Iowa State for that kind of stretch. He's getting closer to that point. Will he be there? We'll find out.
Green Tree All-American says Emory needs to practice live and the coach needs to let the defense hit him. He's a Green Tree All-American, 7-on-7. I wouldn't say he's lit it up either. So I don't think we're calling him there's levels to it. We're not calling him a Green Tree All-American either. I'm not. I mean, you can, D, if you want, but I'm not. No. I'm just, and I also just, Johnny Lagoon, man, Johnny's making some crazy statements this morning. He says he'll take Emory over Malik Rozier. Man, Malik could move the chains with his feet. Malik was a tough runner. I'm not saying Emory's not tough. If you had Malik as your backup this year, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But
yeah, Malik is a proven quarterback. He won you top 10 games.
Games.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that. Maybe
with
down
not
the
as much
road, who knows?
talent as this year, but
We'll have to see on that. Question about from Bill, which is an easy transition. How do you guys feel about Judd at this point? So Judd Anderson, let's just transition right to him. And by the way, just so you guys know, when we go through these positions, a lot of it's going to be kind of an order of experience, just because we don't want to just lay out the whole depth chart for our Notre Dame fans in the chat, but we'll go in order, generally in order of experience here as we go down and walk through where everybody stands. So
while
Judd,
being clear that we do think Emory is the backup, though.
Emory is the backup. Yep. So then Judd is next on the totem pole here as we go down experience-wise. Making progress. You heard Shannon Dawson talk about him. I still think consistency with him, because you'll see a throw and everybody will kind of look around and say, wow, who threw that? Oh, it was 15. And then you'll just see some placement issues. I think processing issues at times, but the talent is there as far as size. When it looks right, it looks very, very right. Still progressing. I don't know if he's done enough to pass Emory. Now, one thing about Judd, here's what I'll say about Judd is I think Judd, when he's in an actual game, like let's say he gets into mop-up time, one of these games, and really gets to play extended snaps, his running, I think, can translate to games. We haven't seen it as much on Green Tree. It's hard to really gauge running quarterbacks on Green Tree. That's very much a live tackling kind of deal. But with Judd, let's say Emory, for whatever reason, drops down the depth chart, gets hurt, whatever, and he's not able to back up Carson Beck. I think he is the backup. But let's just say you are in the position where Judd has to win you games. I would very much have a running kind of quarterback-based offense, kind of like what Josh Allen did as a rookie in the NFL. Obviously, Josh Allen's a different kind of athlete. This is at the NFL level. But just something where you're using his size and kind of, even though he's not known as a runner, like Josh Allen wasn't necessarily known as a runner, he really can run. He's fast and he has a lot of size. So I might, if you ever had to use Judd in games or whenever he ends up on the field in games, I might have him running maybe more than he did in high school, right? Where you're using that size and that ability. Because I think that's one thing you don't see in practice, that because of his size and athleticism, he actually could do it in games effectively.
Some wild words coming out of your mouth with the Josh Allen.
I'm just trying to,
as I look up at my TV and there's a Josh Allen commercial right now going on. I'm trying to process what you said there, D. I'm sorry.
But I can't even explain to people I'm trying to visualize how you use the person. How you use the person does not mean that the player plays like Josh Allen. That's not what. And
I'm a Judd fan, D. I really am. I am. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Again, there's people hearing what they want to hear. I'm not saying he is Josh Allen. He is not Josh Allen. How about that? He is not Josh Allen. How about that one for the people in the chat?
Judd Allen, as Greatness 305Q says.
What I'm talking about is how do you use these players? You
got your Notre Dame boy Ant saying play style, not skill level. Listen, he's physically he's impressive, and when he takes off, he's moving. Which makes me think is there another position in his future?
Could be. And by the way, I don't even think he plays like Josh Allen. Josh Allen was much more of like a gunslinger. Even when he was raw, Josh Allen was much more of kind of like a gunslinger, let it loose kind of down the field guy. Also, his arm was just quite a bit stronger.
EJ, man, all I said was that Emory could be a serviceable backup. Our boy over here is calling Judd a Josh Allen-esque. So
yeah, exactly. No, what I'm saying is that when you had Josh Allen as your quarterback for the Bills, he ran more than people thought he was going to do to get him through the games before he actually became what he became. So if you ever had to use Judd, I'm saying he would run more than maybe he's billed as a runner to get him into the games. He is not, I can say definitively, he is not Josh Allen. And I don't know if I wouldn't bet on him becoming Josh Allen, but again, I'm trying to just visualize how you would put him in a position to be successful is what I'm saying.
I get it.
Yeah, man. Okay, I can't win out here. Shout out to Judd. Where's Travis Thomas? That's the biggest Judd Anderson fan in the chat. He'd be the one defending me right now if he was on.
Yeah, he don't worry. We'll get a comment on him from him. Luke Nickel, who he's a lot of comments about him in the chat. True freshman, big recruit coming out. Got here in January, and we talked about it in the spring. I think playing with the third team sometimes wasn't the easiest for him. I think there was a lot of turnovers early on, but at the same time, you saw in the spring game, at the end of spring, they really turned it on, started to get some confidence, and was getting more reps, quite frankly, too, with Beck not out there, right? So I think between that and then now coming into fall camp here, like still probably a little bit behind Emery as we mentioned, but at the same time, someone for the future that I think we're going to be tracking a lot during the season here, scout team wise, because that's when you can really see the progress as he's getting extended reps against the first team pretty much.
So Michael Quinones asking, who has the largest upside between QB2s and QB4? Perfect transition to the guy we're talking about, right? I think Luke Nickel, to me, is the one that gets me the most excited out of all these backup quarterbacks. I just think the flashes with him. I think really the thing that, in my opinion, Luke has over Emery, over Judd, when you project them forward, is he's just more, to me, in my opinion, of an instinctive kind of natural playmaker. Like he sees it, he lets it rip. He has no hesitation. He can step up in the pocket, move around, throw. You saw some of that in the spring game. Those of you who were at the spring game, he can do that. The negative at this point, throws too many interceptions, still in an early stage of development. But in my opinion, when he's gets more experience in the system, when he's around better players, right, consistently higher in the depth chart players, I think he's going to really take steps. So if you're asking of all these guys, who I think is the most talented, has the most chance to be a starter at this level, in my opinion, it would be Luke Nickel from what I've seen. But he does have to clean up the picks. He does have to just continue to hone in. True freshman, he's learning. But if he sticks with the process, sticks with the system, I think he has a chance to move up quickly. And then as he plays with better players, I think you'll see some of those kind of 50-50 plays get hit more often with better players.
Trey Moore asking if we see Luke getting garbage time snaps this year. That's a tough one. I really don't know until the games play out, because I would think if Emery's number 2, you want to get him some live action when you can in case of emergency to keep his feet wet, especially considering everything we've said. And like, if you throw him out there and it doesn't look good, maybe Luke or one of these other guys fights up the depth chart. But all I'm saying is I think Emery would probably still be the first one out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Emery is a backup quarterback on this team, and you just hope he continues to improve and show what he's shown in camp. Certainly from a physical standpoint, there's been ups and downs, but I think he is clearly the backup quarterback. But back to Nickel, I'm very much of the belief that it's very hard to make someone who is a non-playmaker, a non-processor, someone who does not pull the trigger and teach them to pull the trigger. I think if you talk about Nickel, you do not have you have to calm him down and eliminate some of the just very low percentage throws, but you don't have to wake him up. And again, as he gets more comfortable in the system, he's a smart guy. He was very productive. He got a lot better in high school every single year, made a huge jump from junior to senior, which allowed him to rise in the rankings. But I think if he sticks with the program, stays patient, doesn't rush to, Georgia Southern to start or something like that, I think he has a chance to be a really good player. It's just going to be about developing. But I like Luke. I think Luke is going to be good. And thank you, Liquid Enigma. He says, I don't think D-Money's saying that these players are the comparisons. He's giving a style of play of said comparison. Thank you.
I get it. I try my best to try to find old Canes. Like I'll find I compared a receiver to, I think maybe it was Samori and Wingo to like Rashawn Scott the other day.
Yeah.
Because I think it gives a little bit more like realistic expectations of what these guys could be. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and honestly, with Judd and Allen, just to put so again, because I'm going to miscode on that one, I don't think he even plays like Josh Allen, really. Like when he's playing quarterback, he doesn't play necessarily like Josh Allen. But what I remember when Josh Allen was a rookie, it was surprising how much he ran. Like he was not like, you didn't hear him advertised as like a run first quarterback out of Wyoming. And then basically his first year, he was like a run first quarterback, first couple of years. So what all I'm saying is if Judd were to come on the field, even though people would not characterize him as a run first quarterback, that's how I would use him, is as a run first quarterback while he develops his passing. But that would be down the depth chart here for the Miami Hurricanes, and I'm hoping that Carson Beck takes every meaningful snap in the year 2025.
The EJ, who seems like a Luke fan, says the only problem with Luke is he's going to be throwing behind 6'6" offensive lineman. I'll say, look, Luke is he's stocky. He's not very tall. And I mean, we saw him take off and run and be physical in high school, but would you say that, the fact that he isn't, he's probably 6 foot and what's he listed at? I mean, I don't want to misquote it, but he's not the tallest and he's not super twitchy, I would say. Is that something you might be concerned about down the line?
I think he moves well. I think the height gets kind of distorted because he's standing next to guys that are giant quarterbacks all the time. Like he's always next to Judd, who's like legit almost 6'7". Beck is 6'4", 6'5". Emery is 6'4".
He's listed as 6'2", so maybe you're right. I think maybe they're giving him an inch or two there, but
he's like Cam Ward. As far obviously not the athletic ability of Cam or the talent.
I think Cam's probably taller than him, I would say.
Maybe. I wouldn't fight that, but not by much. I mean, they look pretty similar on the field, and they're both stout kind of guys. I just think Luke's size is gonna be fine because he's big, like strong. He's not light, so I think that I'm not worried about his size. I'm worried about really just him getting more experience and cutting some of the negative throws and just getting better. Antoine Styles says Wingo much faster. Just saw him Friday night. Yeah, Antoine, get your scouting report in the chat. We'll put it up there, man. I always like hearing. If you guys ever see our players live in the chat, let us know. I always love hearing from people who've actually seen these guys up close, especially senior year when they're getting better or worse or stagnating. Those are always good things to hear.
Good question. Enigma says Russell Wilson isn't that tall. There's only so many Russell Wilsons and Drew Brees, man.
Yeah, but he's over 6 foot. Luke.
Yeah, I would say he's 6'6", maybe.
Yeah, so we're getting there. So Hassan says, DMP, do you think Miami will go with the quarterback we have next year or go after a quarterback again? Again, remains to be seen.
Portal.
I think Portal. I'm just a big Portal believer. Get your growing pain somewhere else. Come here ready to rock and roll. And if Carson Beck has a great year, you are now basically either matching or replacing Lincoln Riley as the number one portal quarterback destination. So that's going to you've already been getting the best portal quarterbacks anyways. That's going to continue to keep you in that weight class where the portal quarterbacks that you're talking to are like the best guys in the class. Appreciate you, Miami Flo. Looking forward to our preseason show. Good morning. So yeah, by the way, real quick, we had a comment here. Very kind comment from Willie Little. He said, just checked out that Keontae Scott interview for Storm Sessions. Great interview. I think when it comes to interviewing players, you're one of, if not the best in South Florida. I appreciate that, Willie, and it's a great segue to plug this interview that I did with Keontae Scott for Storm Sessions. So check that out on the official Miami channel. There you go. Storm Sessions, episode 30. Wow, those flew by with Keontae Scott. A great dude. West Coast guy. Different kind of, you're so used to interviewing guys from the South. You think Auburn kid, he's going to be from the South, but he's a West Coast guy all the way. Really smart, good size, just good personality, good attitude. Very nice, fun interview with Keontae Scott. Really enjoyed talking to him, and I think he's going to be a big-time player. So check out Storm Sessions. That is on Miami's official YouTube channel, interview show I do. Again, 30 episodes deep. So we've gone from Cam Ward to the Cavenders to, whoever else, Wesley Basainth we just did. A lot of football players, basketball, baseball, you name it. It's been a lot of fun. So check out Storm Sessions on the Miami Hurricanes official YouTube.
D, not to get too much into the portal conversation with QBs. We do it a lot here. We'll get to running backs in a second. But EJ says, proven guys out of the portal, top dollar who can cost against the cap. What do you think the big recruits are?
Yeah,
exactly. And you don't know what you're getting.
Exactly. The top recruits cost a lot of money. You don't know what you're getting. And by the way, in the NFL, who do you think costs the most in the NFL? You think the Chiefs? Pat Mahomes costs a lot against the Chiefs cap. They still do pretty good. I know it's ideal to have like a rookie scale quarterback and then a loaded roster, but I don't think the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Kansas City Chiefs, those kind of guys are complaining about their quarterbacks. And I think when you have access to the top of the portal market, you're getting that kind of player. I think Beck is one of at least the top 10 quarterbacks in the country, which is already, there's almost 130 teams. So you're talking about top 10 quarterback, conservative, potentially top 5, potentially top 1. Last year you had number 1. So I'm just a big portal guy. And here's what I'll say. Last thing on the portal, I've made this rant a million times. And I asked the chat, tell me if anyone's missing off this list. If I were to say top 5 quarterbacks, actually, let's say top 5 quarterbacks, okay, of Miami since Dorsey. So post Dorsey. I would say number 1, obviously, is going to be Cam Ward. Number 2 is going to be just the guys we've had, De'Aaron King. Number 3, I would say Brock Berlin. Carson Beck, I think, will fit into this list when you look at where he gets drafted at the end of the day and based on what he's done to this point in college. And then Brad Kaya, who was a high school player. If Beck performs to that level, which I think he will, based on what he's already done in a harder division, 4 out of those 5 guys are portal guys, including by far the best one, which is Cam Ward. So portal's been good to Miami. I think it's going to continue to be good here with Carson Beck. And I think we're going to be, as Lord Baconton said, quarterback you when Beck goes top 5. I love it. I'm with it. Lincoln Riley move over. Quarterback you is back.
All right, D, let's get into running back. I think we both believe this is one of the stronger.
Before we get to running back, we're gonna do this a little different with the spots now. This is the running back depth chart analysis is sponsored by my dude at Duffy's Tavern. Shout out to Jose, shout out to Junior, shout out to the whole crew. This place is unbelievable. Now accepting credit cards. Pete, you're home away from home, as we see. Look at this video here. Look at that. There's like the chicharrones right there, the pork rinds, whatever you want to call them, from Duffy's Tavern. Food critic out there having fun. Have you ever heard of this guy, Querico con Kiko?
Yeah, man. He's big.
Yeah,
big
I see the case threw me off. Querico con Kiko. I get it. So there's a legend right here, apparently. Grabbing some grub.
Conch fritters. Look at this. Get the wings.
Legendary spot. I mean, just look at the walls, man. You see all the stuff on the walls. This place has been around. So you talk about quarterback U. This place was around when Miami really was quarterback U. Yeah, Steve Walsh, Craig Erickson working there, Bernie Kosar hanging out, Jim Kelly. I mean, that's the kind of history we're talking about at Duffy's Tavern, 57th, right next to University of Miami. Look at that. Look at that grub.
Got that club sandwich there.
Yeah, man. These guys are loving it. And again, you can bring your family here. It's a family atmosphere. You can watch games. There is my guy Jose right there, making sure everything rolls as it should. You got the ribs, the Death Dog, my personal favorite from back in the day. It's been the same thing since I was a kid, watching Miami against random Big East teams at Duffy's Tavern on the road. So again, shout out to Duffy's Tavern. Now accepting credit cards. This is not the Duffy's chain. This is the real deal, authentic Miami spot. Great place to watch a game, have dinner with your family, all of the above. Duffy's Tavern. All right. So, those turkey club smack, Trey Moore knows. So here we go. Let's get ready to jump into the running back position here. Oh, by the way, I just got an important announcement because I screwed up the pronunciation. So I'm going to fix this because I screwed up and I apologize to the young man. I said Jabari Antoine. It's actually Jabari Antoine. So gave him a big shout out yesterday on the podcast because he was really playing very well. So I was reminded, and thank you for the reminder, and I apologize to the young man, Jabari Antoine. All right, so let's talk about running backs, man. That's a position you're fired up about. I know. I'm going to start again. Let's go kind of experience down the line. These are going to be the guys that have played, at least for Miami. So let's start with Mark Fletcher, who we've seen for 2 years now. First healthy offseason he's really had where he's able to work out all summer. He's been recovering. Last summer, he was recovering from that foot injury the whole summer. He didn't even know he was going to play. He scores 2 touchdowns the first game against Florida. Year before, he was banged up in the summer. Really in high school, banged up. He gets banged up a lot because just the way he runs, his size, and the kind of being a big target right there. But very, very productive for Miami last year. You look at the numbers. He was over 5 yards a carry. He did everything from a let's see, he was 5.4 yards a carry, 607 yards, 9 touchdowns, countless first downs, 106 yards receiving. He was our best pass blocker by, a country mile. And he was a great lead blocker as well when he did split backs with some of the other backs. So, I'm just extremely high on Mark Fletcher always. Oh, Marquez Williams saying no fullbacks. Not true. First of all, shout out to Marquez Williams, draft pick. I think Miami's last draft pick at fullback since the first one since maybe our Alonzo Highsmith. So yeah, shout out to Marquez Williams. There are some fullbacks, and we're talking about Fletcher here. Fletcher's a running back, right? So Fletcher, 607 yards last year at 5.4 yards a clip, 9 touchdowns. You're a running back. He's explosive. He knows how to run. He's been running productively since he was a little kid. But one thing that I think he can do, and Marquez, I think you were a throwback, but you're also ahead of your time because the fullback is coming back, right? You look at the NFL, you look at San Francisco 49ers, you look at the Baltimore Ravens, you look at some of these other teams, the Miami Dolphins.
This is who you think Mark Fletcher is.
Let's see who it is. No, I'll show you who I think Mark Fletcher is. Hold on.
The way you talk about Mark Fletcher as a fullback is wild to me.
Well, I think here's how I look at Fletcher. Let's talk for real here. Let's get for real in terms of what I think when I'm talking about Fletch, who again one of my favorite players on the entire team. So I think he's very much. Let me get this link up here, like a hurricane great, number 3 pick of the NFL draft, and that's right there, Alonzo Highsmith. Alonzo Highsmith, number 3 pick of the draft. Guy that was a running back and a fullback. I'm not saying Fletcher's going to be a top 3 pick. Again, we're getting to the comparison thing. But in terms of how we use him, I think that's a guy. It's a different era of offense, but I just think with Fletcher, he can run at the highest levels, and he's 225 pounds, like trying to be slim. So his natural size, 6'1 plus, you look at him, he's just a naturally big guy, and then he's extremely explosive as a blocker. Just like he's explosive as a runner. He has that natural pop. Saw him at Heritage do it. You saw him in last year as a split back do it. When he's lead blocking, he can murder people. So I like him not only running the ball and as well as he did last year with more carries, but also blocking with, like, he's just someone I always want on the field because he could do so much. Again, shout out. Look, we got this NFL caliber analysis from Marquez Williams, man. This guy's the man. I'm glad the chat is on fire right now. Get this kind of analysis in the chat. But shout out to Mars Hill. But yeah, he's saying Fletcher's getting a feel faster, breaking tackles, will put it all together. I'm fired up about Fletcher, and I think he can do so much, including, don't get this part confused, including running the football at a very, very high level.
First full healthy offseason for him, right, D?
Yes, sir.
So, and Mario talked about that the other day. So I think that's, as Kyle says here, one of the best all-around players on the team. He's a worker and a great teammate. So yeah, we're both huge fans of this guy, and got to think that a big year's in store. I think you gotta mention protecting the football. D with him is priority number 1 this season, just because of some of the stuff we've seen. But that's pretty correctable for a player like him, I would say.
Yeah, and he's just his personality. Shout out to Linda Fletcher, his mom. I mean, they're like, she's a thermostat, just like him. They got high energy people. They raise the energy of the room. And I think that's what you see with Mark Fletcher. His personality when you're around him, for how physical he is and how hard he plays on the field and how rugged he is, just a great guy and a high energy player. So, and as Marquez Williams mentioned, the pass protection, he's so smart and he's big. So he's big. If you're a blitzing linebacker, how many linebackers are that much bigger than him? Right. I mean, he's 225 pounds losing weight. So he's got size and he can deal with linebackers and defensive ends as he needs to. So, yeah, he is just outstanding all-around player. Excellent pass pro, guys. The coach says right here, Coach Clay. I just think, again, not saying he is Alonzo Highsmith. I'm saying I like to think of him in that style more so than like people are like, oh, okay, you compare him to like an Edgar and James or someone who's just like an elite runner. And you're like, he doesn't have that kind of lateral quickness, that pure running style.
I'm sorry, D, but every time you say Edge's name, it comes out different. How do you say his name?
It depends.
You call him Egderin?
I think I said Edgarin. Edgerin.
It's Edgerin.
Edgerin. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's been you've dropped that one a few times recently, and at first I was like, was he saying Edge? Is that who he was saying?
Yeah. So shout out to Edge. We'll just say Edge. But anyways, people always compare Fletcher to some of our really, truly great backs that as far as the running the ball. And they say, he doesn't have that kind of just patience and lateral ability and fluidity. And look, there's some truth to that. But again, I think you have to look at him as an all-around player, and that's how he's going to really impact the team in a major way. I think the guy, if you're going to compare somebody to the prior backs we've had as far as like just the highest level running, the movement, speed, power, Jordan Lyle would be the name I pop up there. Saw what he did last year. How many yards did he have per carry last year? He was just, he had the biggest run in UM history from a length standpoint against USF. And then stat-wise, a nice 7.4 yards per carry. Just a light season there for Jordan Lyle. 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also a good pass protector too. He's not weak in that area. But I think just in terms of like who's the most dynamic pure runner on the team, I would say it would be Jordan Lyle, just because again he just kind of strings it all together. He has the moves, he has the balance, he has speed, he's big, he runs hard. So just in terms of complete runner, I would go with Jordan Lyle as the most complete runner on this team. Maybe the biggest threat to be the leading rusher on this team. We'll see. You know how running back situations are. It depends on injury and who gets banged up and who has the hot hand. But I think with Lyle, if you're asking me who has the best chance to be like a day 1, day 2 type pick, and I think Marquez Williams here in the chat agrees, I think Lyle's the one that has the best chance to be that day 1, day 2 pick at running back, like what Ohio State had last year. Not saying the other ones can't. I'm just saying he has the best chance, in my opinion.
Yeah, heard he had a big day yesterday. Guy who the breaking tackles is crazy. His contact balance we saw last year, and then the ability to explode out of broken tackles. Right, some guys like when they break the tackle, they kind of fall forward for a few more yards, and that's it. But with him, it's like he breaks the tackle and has that explosive ability out of that.
Yeah, and like Jobs Money in Order says here, contact balance is elite. I think that's really a strength of Lyle, kind of what you're getting to there. You think he's down and he spins out, size, speed.
And then hits it,
Yeah. He reminds me, this is actually like, you talk about comparisons. This is not just a style comparison. I think, looking at him, I think he could be just a little more talent, like a more talented version of Etienne from Georgia last year, who I think was a 4th-round pick, something like that. He kind of reminds me of that guy. Not the Etienne that went to Clemson, the one that went to Georgia, 4th-round pick.
Who was not Florida? Trevor,
who's a 4th-round pick of the Carolina Panthers. I could see Lyle being like a better version of that. That's kind of, in terms of who he reminds me of, that's someone that he reminds me of, but I think he's better than Etienne. Etienne, again, 4th-rounder. That'd be one of our highest drafted running backs in a while. But I think that with Lyle, you just get a little more talented version of that. So more of a day 2, day 1 type pick. If day 1, if everything really goes well, and then day 2, because of his well-rounded game. Still early for that kind of projection. I'm just saying that I think the guy that has the best chance to be that type of player, and you look at Ohio State had 2 top 2 round backs in Judkins and Henderson, both 2nd-rounders. I think, Brandon's saying ETN.
Yeah.
Do they even have the E pronunciation in French? Isn't it Etienne?
Dude, you can't do this. You have to stop with isn't it pronounced this way? It's what the person whose name it is says is pronounced. That's how it works, man. You can't go off logic on this stuff.
I guess, man. I'm going to change the way my name's pronounced just to test people.
Do it. And then you can't claim, or they can't claim it, because then you say, this is how I want it said. This is how the name is pronounced. Am I wrong on that, chat? Like, I think that's how it goes, but
yeah. So we'll figure it out. ETN, Travis Etienne. Very.
I think people are agreeing with me here, man.
Lance Oreste saying Etienne. Now I can get with that. That sounds right. Etienne.
Like I think the player has said it's a certain way.
All right. Well, listen, I'll pronounce I'm going to figure out how to pronounce my last name. I'm just going to make it up. So I'll come back to you tomorrow with some new pronunciations of my last name.
Demonet with a T.
So look, I mean, Areste, my guy Areste, that sounds like a Haitian name. There it is. Thank you. Canes Cowboy. D-Money said it correctly. Thank you. There we go.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go. Chat's helping me out here. Appreciate all that. By the way, shout out to all the Zoes in the chat helping me out. I'm just trying to keep it authentic, man. I'm not trying to go off this, media guide, this middle America media guide. We're Miami, what can I tell you? So anyways, that'd be my comp for Jordan Lyle. I think he's gonna have an incredible year. I don't know. You stay attuned to draft stuff and to just running backs and understanding there's levels to all this thing. So where do you kind of see Lyle stacking up? And forget the whole jokes about our comparisons. Now you're stacking the player and where his deal. Oh, Josh Money Order saying he's not Haitian. I'm assuming it's the French Louisiana.
You can't be assuming this stuff, man.
I'm not assuming. Well, look, it sounds like a French name. Maybe he's from Paris. I don't know, but there's something French origin, whether it's Haitian, from Haiti, Louisiana.
There's a skit somewhere in this.
There's a French in there.
There's a skit somewhere in here.
Yeah. So, anyways, go ahead and Pete, give me Jordan Lyle. Where's him?
That's a top 3 to 4 round talent, potentially higher, right? Running back, the nature of the position. You understand that there's going to be that the draft process is different for them, but he's an all 3 down guy. He's not someone who's a complementary back necessarily. He can carry the load, but at the same time does have that breakaway speed that you would associate with sometimes one of these complementary backs. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's been very good in pass pro since the time that he's been here, according to the coaches, and it was obvious how they trusted him last year. So I'm expecting big things from this guy, man. I think, the highest draft pick at running back in the last 10 years was DJ Dallas was a 4th rounder, 5th rounder.
Mark Walton.
Mark Walton was a 4th rounder. Someone in the chat said that he looks like Walton, but a little bit better than Walton. I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, bigger, faster.
He's bigger, faster than Walton. Walton wasn't as big as Lyle, and Lyle's just more muscled up, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think top 3, 4 round talent on this guy, which it's saying a lot with the nature of the position these days.
Yeah, no question. That's real big talent. I mean, if you're in that range, running back is a position where guys don't go as high as they used to. But I think this is someone who I think has the chance to be a real player. And obviously, we're not just caring about what he does for NFL. We're caring about what he does for the Miami Hurricanes. But I think he has a chance to be really big for us. By the way, CBD asked if anyone's complimented me on my fresh cut yet. I got to give a shout out to Oliver at Golden Touch. It's the barber for the stars there right on campus. All the hairstyles you see on the University of Miami sideline and inside the helmets, that's mostly going to be the work of Oliver there at Golden Touch on the campus.
Lord Bagington says Duke was a 3rd rounder. I think he was like 81st pick or something like that. So yeah, Duke for sure. Duke had a different dimension to his game, which, obviously Lyle's a different player, but yeah, Duke had the game breaking ability.
100%. So switching gears, because I really think there's going to be a 3-headed monster at least. I really think there's a lot of guys that can carry. I think this room is deeper with guys that are game ready than maybe I thought it was, quite frankly. But if we're going to the guy that we know, first, again, next on the experience chart, maybe even higher experience than Lyle, but new to Miami and new to the FBS level, which is going to be Shamar Brown from North Dakota State, originally from Omaha, under-recruited guy out of high school, very productive in Omaha. Nebraska didn't really go after him, goes to North Dakota State, redshirts a year, bulks up, wins the FCS Freshman of the Year, an award that you've seen Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders win. You've seen Terrence West, Chase Edmonds, NFL guys at running back win in the past, recent history. So very good tell that he won that award. Shows up here, kind of generates instant buzz over the summer just because of his size, because of his ability to just really look the part and then translate that physicality to the field. Better jump cut and lateral quickness than I expected with Marty Brown. I think that's the one thing I've learned the most about him is that he has some nice lateral quickness I didn't know he had.
Yeah, I pay close attention to guys that are hyped up consistently throughout the staff, like talking to different levels of staff member. This is always a name that comes up since the summer, and then even continuing now. And my number for him all year has kind of been like around 100 carries. I still obviously think that Fletcher and Lyle are 1 and 2. But Brown will have more carries than your number 3 last year had. So and just because of the nature of the offense, and I think he's better than what you had at number 3 last year. Not better, obviously you knew you had, but I just think as a whole they're going to be able to spread it out more. Is kind of
more ready, I think. Yeah. I mean, Jordan Lyles was your number 3 last year, and he averaged 7.4.
Right, that's why it's like Lyles ahead of him, or what I would think is ahead of him this year in the pecking order. But I just think that's a better group as a whole.
Yep, and I think he ran for 1,000 yards last year. So the level of production and proven, I know it's FCS, but this is a big time program at North Dakota State that's won a lot, put a lot of guys in the pros. So he knows that he can run. He's done it before. I think that it matters. I just think we talked about it before when we picked him up, and you've seen it here. His style fits our style. He hits the hole hard. He doesn't like to lose yards. Miami does not. Miami is always going to be elite at avoiding negative plays under Alex Mirabal, assuming everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think Marty Brown fits that. He's someone who's not going to get negative plays. Someone who's going to push the pile. Do I think he's better than A.J. Allen was? Absolutely. I would. 100%. That A.J. Allen.
I like A.J. Allen. I think A.J. Allen gave you a nice dimension. I just think this running style is a little bit different. That downhill, I mean, he's 220 plus. It's going to be a nice fit for what they've got. And then I think you have some other speed element guys also in this room. But
yeah, A.J. Allen's going to be good he's at FIU, right? I think he's going to be.
No, he was there for a second and then ended up at, I don't know if it was Tulsa. I think it was Tulsa. He like left. Yeah, he's at Tulsa. So
I think he'll do well there. But I think when you talk about just like ability to carry the load, Marty Brown could be your starting running back and carry the load. You wouldn't want to not have Lyle and Fletcher, obviously. But I think if you had a catastrophe at running back and you had Marty Brown, like you could use him like you would use a bell cow back, and he would give you a chance to win.
I agree with Johnny here, though. He says he'll be great in the second half, wearing down tired defenses. Yeah, that's, to me, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think too. You almost might want to use him in the first half a little bit, because in the second half, you use Fletcher more in the second half, obviously, and Lyle as well. Those guys have a little bit more explosiveness, I think. And if you're tired already, and then Fletcher comes like shot out of a cannon, he can go 40 yards on you before you know it. Lyle can take it to the house. So those guys also in the second half could cause damage. It's going to be a tough team to tackle in the second half period, because all these guys have size on terms of those front three. But that allows me to transition here to, we got almost 1,300 on, by the way, guys. Like and subscribe to the show. That allows me to transition here to the smaller backs. And I say smaller, not small, but smaller backs than those guys who really talk about the scrimmage on Sunday. I think both these guys were outstanding in full contact. These were taken to the ground practices, scrimmage, where you're tackling the player to the ground. You don't see that every day in practice. So these are opportunities to see who has balance, who has leg strength, who can actually deal with what they're going to deal with in the games. There's no preseason here. So these are when you find out about these kind of guys. Both of them did exceptional. Again, starting with the more experienced player, Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, up to 200 pounds. He looks different. I didn't realize he'd be able to get to this level of size, but he has. I've compared him to kind of a better Henry Parrish in the past. I think that's what he can be. And I say that with Henry Parrish being a productive college SEC back. I think Wheatley-Humphrey has all the good things about Parrish, but just maybe just more talented, more dynamic. And I think he weighs more as well. So he has the ability to run inside the tackles, to play bigger than his size, but what he really brings is that just cutting ability. He can cut at full speed at full speed going forward without losing speed. He has that just natural bounce in his ankles and feet that he can make guys look really bad in the open field without being inefficient. He can do that in tight spaces as well. And where he's really, really good, and you saw this repeatedly on Sunday, is let's say he goes up to the line and all the gaps are clogged. He has a jump cut that he can just jump over a couple gaps and then squeeze up 6 yards before he's hit. And with another back, maybe a more straightforward back, that's a 1 yard gain or worse. He, because of his jump cut and his footwork, can create more space for himself. So I think Chris Wheatley-Humphrey is very, very talented. Someone's asking about CJ Jonathan, how he compares. Wheatley-Humphrey is much more lateral than Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson's speed is like the best in the country. We talk about track and full speed. No one's touching him on that. But I think Wheatley Humphrey has more lateral quickness, more just natural running back stuff at this age. He's played running back longer. I think CJ was later to the position, whereas Wheatley Humphrey was doing it at a high level since youth ball, Hellcat. So, yeah, I don't know what you've seen from him, but I think he has a chance. If he had to play this year for the Canes, I think he's going to get it's a long year with injuries. Everybody's going to get their opportunity. I think this guy can make plays at the ACC level right now.
Yeah, I think he'd be a solid contributor. You know, it's tough to project without saying there's injuries, like in a healthy room, what his role would be, just because of the guys in front of him. But yeah, you've got it's to compare him to Henry Parrish is saying a lot, just because Parrish was a really productive player in his career. But I do get what you're saying, because he's bigger and he's probably got a little bit more juice to him. But yeah, I agree with your sentiment on him.
So another guy that I want to talk about, who also had a very good scrimmage, Gerard Pringle. This is the true freshman running back out of Sefner Armwood. And what he brings to the table, I know you've talked to people about him before. You've talked about him on the work on your Discord, which is the speed that he brings to the table and the ability to kind of hide behind the offensive line. And then boom, he pops up and he's making runs. Not a pure speed back, meaning that like he's not physical. This guy had a lot of carries in high school. He was very much a workhorse against good teams at Armwood. This is a high level football. You see him in person. He's like a squatty. He's not tall. He's probably like 5'9", but he's a squatty guy. He's strong. And not only does he have that track speed of 10.7, however you want to say it, and to the house speed, but he does have some jump cut ability as well. That kind of combination of quickness, speed, and then enough physicality to do what he needs to do. His hero is Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not saying that's just to give you, I know you love these Pro Bowl comparisons for, guys who never played it down. I know that's what he's striving to be. But I think in terms of like how you would utilize a guy like that in their peak form, he catches some passes, he runs the ball. He's not a workhorse. You have another back in the system, but he'll break a tackle, and he also has the speed. That's probably how you would utilize him in that family of backs, because he does have pass catching ability as well, which we're starting to see.
Yeah, and from what I understand, also scored in the first scrimmage. So a guy who's had a couple good live game type of moment situations here, which bodes well for playing time. I mean, again, it's a loaded room, so we'll see how that fits in. Especially like game one, I don't know how many touches these guys are getting, but yeah, I'm feeling good about that room, and still got to talk about these receivers here in a second. I want to bring this comment up. Sean Andrews says, I hope Mario allows Dawson to be aggressive with the passing game. I mean, it didn't seem to be an issue last year.
Yeah, Sean, I love you. Great contributor to the show, but I will say, yeah, Miami's passing game was it number one in the country by how much? Let's see, just in terms of yards per pass. So in yards per pass attempt, actually, we're in that stat. We were number 6. Because we were behind the service academies because they just bombed it. But in total, in passing,
imagine if Mario would have let him open it up a little bit more. Could have been first there.
I think we were second. Actually, we were second in passing to Syracuse because they threw the ball so much. But I mean, Miami's passing game from an efficiency standpoint was, probably number 1 in the country. Certainly running, and then you have the running game, which we've been finished. We were finished putting a bow on here before we went to receiver and finish the show up. We're at over an hour. We're still getting rolling, man. This is a fun time of year. We really reflect on camp. Over 1,300 on. I do think the question is about the explosiveness. We did lack that big play, touchdown receiver. We'll talk about that here when we get to the receivers, but they have more a personnel issue than anything to do with Dawson. And obviously he did well with what he had with the best offense in the country by far. But putting a cap on the running back discussion before we move on, Pete, I think overall expectations, last year you were top 5 in yards per carry. You were elite avoiding negative plays. You were elite in short yardage. I would think all of those, you have the ability to just stay steady in those categories, maybe increase the volume a little bit just because Ward, maybe Beck doesn't pass as much as Ward in this offense.
Yeah, and hopefully hit some more explosive runs as well.
Yeah, and we'll see if a Pringle or whoever kind of comes in and does that. I mean, Lyle can do that as well. These other guys can do it, but I think those would be some of the guys you expect to really make those explosive plays. Wheatley Humphrey when they get opportunities, but I think Lyle obviously as being one of the guys that's going to be relied upon is the one you look at. So switching gears to the receiver position, which, by the way, this breakdown is brought to you by Orchid Man. These are not landscapers. These are landscape artisans. They work really on a lot of the construction that's involved in landscaping. Their job is making this thing easy to you. They're not just, these artists that are kind of conceptual. These guys are guys that make things happen, that make things easy. They are passionate about landscape. They'll help you pick the plants, all from South Florida, all authentic. But really, it's about making the product easy for you, whether you're trying to improve your business, your house, the curb appeal. They will work with you. They'll make it a clean, easy process, and they will take a lot of stuff that you do not want to do off your hands: sprinkler repair, irrigation, rain gutters, hurricane prep, landscape lighting, manicured maintenance, tree trimming, tree removal, relocation, tree stump grinding, fertilizing. And again, some of the top plants in South Florida. If you are in South Florida, Orchid Man at orchidmanflorida.com. That's who you want if you want to landscape your house or your business, like Nike does, like coaches on staff, celebrities, just rich people from South Florida, people who want to look like they're balling at that level on a much more affordable budget. He takes care of all these guys at Orchid Man Florida.
So into the wide receiver position.
Yes, sir. So speaking of the wide receiver room, I think this is going to be obviously a scrutinized position. Wait, what are they saying? They're saying, or they're correcting my pronunciation. What did I say? I didn't say orchid. What did I say?
I wasn't paying attention to your pronunciation, but they might be messing with you. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously.
You never know with you. You can make the impossible probable.
Yeah, seriously. So. Orchid Man Florida. Sarcasm. All right.
I think he was kidding.
Can't joke with me about sponsors like that, man. It's just serious business out here, man. We're talking about Orchid Man Florida, the #1 landscape artisan.
Trust me, I will be the first to correct you when I hear something off, D.
All right, man. So let's roll into the wide receiver room here. Obviously, scrutinized position. My overall take, and we'll get into specifics, is I see it very similar to last year, Pete. It's just kind of overall expectations for me, but less experienced and probably more guys that can help you. But overall, I don't think it's that much different. But that's kind of how I would have it this year. I would say, yeah, you had an elite passing offense with the receivers last year. Now you did have Cam Ward. I think Arroyo, removing him maybe takes you down a notch here because you have to factor in Arroyo running a 4.5 and doing all the things he does, which is pretty unique at tight end, which we'll get to tomorrow. But overall, I do think the receivers, they just kind of remind me of what we had last year, just in a different package and maybe a little more spread out. What do you think about that comp?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're going to be relying on a couple young guys to have big roles, but I would say that although you don't have as much top flight experience, I think underneath the surface level, you have more experience than you had last year because Ray, who was in the mix last year, obviously at slot and didn't end up playing all that much or didn't get the ball. He's coming back a year with a year more experience. You bring in a Tony Johnson with a lot of football played under his belt. Keelan Marion, not that much experience as like a big time receiver, but he's played a lot of football. So yes, I see what you're saying, but to me, what Shannon Dawson said last week was not coach speak about trusting more guys this year than they trusted last year. And someone got on me in the comments yesterday about it because I've been saying like Cam trusted the guys that he trusted. He didn't really trust much else out of it. It was obvious with who was getting the football and who was playing. Like that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just what it was. There was a certain trust level there. From what I understand, and this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier with Beck, with how many guys are getting the football, because there's a lot of rotation going on. There's a lot of different players who, at least early on in the year, yes, this thing will tighten up somewhat, but you're going to probably have 6 to 7 receivers in that rotation. No doubt.
And there's a lot of questions. Bucks of Plenty Gaming saying, I can't compare wide receiver from this year to last year. Says a freshman wide receiver coming in and becoming the best receiver on the team is a terrible sign overall. Worked for the national champions, I'm just saying. But I think the wide receivers last year were good, very good college players. In Restrepo's case, an elite college player. But they also didn't have any draft picks. So not sit now again, Restrepo was an elite college player. So to diminish him just because he didn't get drafted, I'm not going to do. You know how I feel about Restrepo. But I think just, we're not talking about
people were Canes fans that listen to the show were asking for him to transfer before last season.
Yeah. Not us, obviously. We were
not us.
I was in the trenches saying this guy's a special player. But yeah, but 100%. That's where it was.
Like that was what the mentality was before the season. We have to continue to go back, and I've made this point a few times over the offseason that what was the level of provenness was Restrepo had a bunch of production, but fans were saying that he should move on and that he was a TVD merchant.
Yeah, his roommate.
Isaiah Horton, we were excited about him, but the only player we had to point to was the Texas A&M touchdown. Jacoby George, talented receiver, but what was everyone saying? Not consistent enough, too many penalties. This is what the Canes fans were saying.
Yeah,
right? This is
go back and look.
So I think as a whole, I almost feel better going. I'm not saying the result is going to be the same, but I almost feel better about this group now at this point than I did last year about that group.
I would agree. And again, you think about the freshman receivers. So we're talking about some freshman receivers as we get here. No one's Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith's Andre Johnson part 2, and that's a real comparison, not like a style comparison, right? The Jeremiah Smith, Andre Johnson is an actual comparison, which, by the way, I made in high school. So this is, everybody knew Jeremiah Smith is good. But I'm just saying, I do all those Hall of Fame comparisons. That's one that I actually think that's who he is, and that's how he's going to impact the game, and that's how he has been impacting the game. So that's rare. However, Ohio State, their best receiver was a freshman. Probably a more similar comparison to Miami. You look at Clemson, right? Clemson, 2 of their 3 best receivers, 2 of the 3 best receivers in the conference down the stretch were true freshmen in Wesco and Moore. And they won the conference that we're in. So to just totally diminish like what a freshman receiver could do if they're up to par, I think is wrong just because we haven't seen them. I think, Peter, you're spot on about everything you're saying about putting in the perspective of where we were last year on this. And I made this comparison on another show, and we'll go through these individual names. But if you're trying to like replace names and it's not one-to-one, I would say the things that Restrepo does, Malachi Tony can certainly do, in my opinion. And I'm the biggest Restrepo fan in the world. I think the things that Horton did for us last year, CJ Daniels can do. We'll see what Horton does this year, but talking about what he did for us last year, I think CJ Daniels can do those things, has done those things. Sam Brown, I think Keelan Marion, I feel better about Keelan Marion now than Sam Brown at this time. Sam Brown was a lot of my hype about him, and what I was excited about was what other people were telling me. It wasn't what he was actually doing on the field. And I think Keelan Marion's doing more at the same period than Sam Brown was on the practice field. This is just, again, going back to that time period. And then Jacoby George, I think Trader's in that mold, just a better version of it, longer, more athletic, more talented. So there's more receivers in the mix than those 4, but those guys are, to me, similar to what we had last year. If you're talking about what those guys gave us.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Brown was a big disappointment for me, for sure, based on the hype before the season from NFL too. This wasn't just like inside of the building, right, D? So that was probably the most disappointing player last season for me. But yeah, you're gonna need guys to play big as freshmen. But I don't think that's the end of the world necessarily.
Yeah, again, when you get good freshmen, they play at wide receiver usually. So I think that's something that you have to just get with the times on with the freshmen. Last year was unique for the reasons you said, and we've talked about before with Ward and just kind of his timing. I don't think Beck's going to have the similar. Beck's going to be different than Ward in that way. Ward, here's another thing about Ward that I think people need to realize. Because Ward did a lot of improvising, having experienced receivers was huge. Restrepo being number 1 of those guys, right? It's hard to improvise when these receivers are brand new to the game. I think with Beck, it's more like run your route, like you're coached up by Kevin Beard, and I'm going to throw you the ball. Ward, there was a lot more improvising, which is why the best guy with Ward was Restrepo, because Restrepo was so smart that he would find the holes downfield to be on the same page as Cam Ward, and boom, it was happening every game. With a guy like Trader last year and Ikar, the guys that didn't play, I don't know if they were on the same wavelength as Ward when he improvised. Whereas Beck, he's going to run the offense. And if you're a young receiver and you're where you're supposed to be and you catch the ball, get open, you get a chance. So starting with the most experienced receiver, Pete, and I think you said that you thought, and there's people who agree with you in the building on this, that you think that the guy who's going to be leading receiver on this team is going to be CJ Daniels, the Liberty transfer, then went to the LSU, and now is on Miami. Had a foot injury last year that he played through at LSU, started games but was injured, played through it, got surgery in the offseason, now fully healthy. What do you see with CJ Daniels?
Yeah, the health, big time positive for me based on everything we've seen coming out of camp here. Bigger bodied receiver, but at the same time, by his numbers at Liberty, you understand he has some downfield ability. I don't think he's going to catch the ball, make three people miss, and take it to the house necessarily. That's not what you're looking at here. But this is a guy who's a technician at 6'1", 6'2", has played a lot of football, good hands, very reliable hands in the SEC. And I think he's going to be one of the go-to targets for Beck here.
Totally agree. The comparison I make is Horton last year. And if you look at what did Horton do last year? Slants, right? Using his body on slants, third down. That was kind of his bread and butter. I think Daniel's actually better going up and getting it than Horton. Horton, I think, is better deep ball, but we didn't throw the deep ball to Horton that much last year. But I think more than anything, Horton's age, his experience, teaching the young guys, being reliable for Beck, like Slapbox says, being a safety valve, offering the leadership role. I agree totally with this message. Very outspoken, can guide the young Bucks. He's going to fill his role to perfection. The question is, if you expect him to be like a day one, day two pick, is he going to have enough juice to get that done? I mean, we'll see. But I do think when you just think about what Horton gave us last year, I think Daniels can give us that plus more experience, more leadership. Not that Horton worked hard. He was a good guy, but Daniels has just been around more as more of his role in this team. And I think on the field can give you all that Horton stuff on third down with the physicality and contested catch.
Yep, agreed. And then we've heard everything that he's done for the room in terms of leadership. So he commands it in that sense.
100%. So, switching gears to another veteran I want to talk about, which is Keelan Marion, right? So I compared him to the Sam Brown, and I like him better because I just like his energy. I like the way he's going about his business. Both old guys, both very athletic. Keelan Marion, All-America kick returner last year, preseason All-America kick returner this year, returned 2 to the house. We know he can run. Strong build, guy that can break tackles, kind of a running back almost. They gave him handoffs at BYU, but he's been working on his receiver craft, now entering, I think, year 5 of college. So he's somebody who's been coached up a lot at receiver. I don't know if he's natural there, but he's starting to make some plays, and we've seen him in camp, probably more than I expected at least, making plays in team sessions, getting open, catching the ball, contested catches, plays where he has to adjust where it's not perfect, and then also being able to run under it and catch bombs. I think you heard ACC Network talking about, and I know the play because I was there too, and I saw Eric McLean throw his hands up, a bomb from Beck to Marion. He has that element to his game as well. I think handoffs, short passes, bombs, but he can really run the full route tree. At least he's attempting to, and he's had production doing it. So I like Keelan Marion. I think if you put the expectations in check, which is going to be impactful returner, guy that can do different kinds of plays, and then the guy who can also make plays in the passing game, I think he has a chance to be really good. I'm a fan of his game and his energy level and strength.
With Marion, I gotta say, D, the first week of practice, I was concerned is a strong word, but I was skeptical just because a lot of the stuff I was seeing first week in the media viewing portion, a lot of one-on-ones, didn't see him creating much separation. I didn't see much of the wiggle there, but I think he's someone that when the pads fully came on and there was more live action and you had to tackle him, and then his core strength was able to come into play a little bit more, finding matchups for him across the field. I've said this a few times here, 5 to 6 touches a game for him between the return game, between however they try to get him the ball down the field, or maybe they do get him involved in the jet sweep game and stuff like that. But I think he could be an impactful player and flip the field for Miami this season. Although, again, I'm not counting him as like a 6 to 7 receptions a game guy. I'm looking at it more like 2 to 3.
Yep, I can see that. I can see that. And then the other stuff that he brings. But I like him. I like him. I like him more now on August 18th than I liked him on July 30th. So he's someone who I think is heading in the right direction for me. I'm seeing like Tyler Harrell kind of comparisons. He's not. I don't think he'll be that. I think he'll be much more impactful for us than Tyler Harrell was. He's not just a run. Like as Tyler Harrell, all he could do is really run, whereas this guy's he can run with the ball. I think that's a big difference between the two. Harrell is just a speed guy. This guy's got speed, but he can run with the ball.
And he's stronger than Harrell. Yes, Harrell was skinny.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what he can do. Another experienced guys. Again, we're kind of going through in terms of experience. Tony Johnson, slot receiver from Cincinnati. Just kind of as advertised, good character guy, worked for everything he's got, knows how to play, knows how to get open, knows how to catch the ball. I think he's really a glue guy in this offense, and I guess kind of what you see is what you get from Tony Johnson. He raises the floor of this team, and he's just a solid player who's done it before at the Power 4 level, led Cincinnati in touchdowns. But the guy everybody's going to ask about here, and I see it already in the chat, we need to talk about him. He's next up. JoJo Trader. So I made the JoJo Trader kind of Jacoby George comparison. I think he's better than Jacoby George, or will be a lot better than Jacoby George. Jacoby George was productive for us. Overall, Jacoby George had a good career for us. It's going to be interesting. Have you heard anything about him making the team in Jacksonville, in Carolina? I haven't really heard much about what he's doing.
No.
I know I'm looking at his preseason stats. He's got 2 targets, 7 yards. If you look at what he did at the University of Miami, I mean, he was a productive player, almost 2,000 yards for his career, over 17 touchdowns. But I think that with Trader, he's just more athletic, more talented than Jacoby, but has a lot of the similar stuff with in terms of the length. He's a little longer, a little faster, tracks the ball better, just more athletic overall, but similar in that smooth kind of game that he has. And with him, it's going to be a long season. So will he be able to just keep that level of play consistent throughout the season? But I think if you ask me who has a chance to be our big play guy, I think Trader has that chance to make those really impactful plays down the field, similar to what you saw in the bowl game against Iowa State.
Yeah, I think as Jobs Money and Order says, Jacoby George is too small for that. That's the strength. That's going to continue to be the differentiator, I think, for JoJo, right? That's what's going to take him from being a talent that we're all very excited about to being a consistent playmaker for this team. Yep.
No, I would agree. That's the big one. But again, people saying, "Oh, Jacoby George is undrafted." If JoJo Trader's undrafted, that's a disappointment. I don't think he will be. I think he's going to develop into an NFL player. I see him in that style, just like that smooth kind of. You don't expect him to be running that fast, and he's running faster than you think. He can find the ball and all those things. But Trader just has more athleticism. He's the guy that does one-handed catches, do backflips.
Oh, and here's the other thing. Not to cut you off, D, but Jacoby weighed in at. I knew he weighed in very light at the combine. Jacoby George weighed in at 172 at the combine. Right now, I got JoJo at 182, so that's 10 pounds heavier right there, and that's still a couple years away from the same point of his career. So
yeah, and more athletic. George would do the one-handed catches all the time, like JoJo does in practice, but he wouldn't necessarily follow it up with like a backflip, without even breaking stride, which is what JoJo does. So he's got a higher ceiling, but that's just that's like the bucket I'm putting him in. Just again, thinking about this offense and the different roles guys played. That's why I'm comparing these guys to last year's, because just in terms of what we did and had success with, where can we put him in? That's kind of what I see with him. But I think he's going to be a big play guy for us this year. And if he can get it going on the field with his confidence, he just continue to roll and get to a place where he's even better than that. So Pinella says, from what I've heard, the receiver room will start off as a committee and will inevitably be determined by dependability. That's what I've heard too. It's going to be more players playing than last year.
Yeah. And also, not to just keep going on this comparison, but Jacoby ran a 4.6 at Pro Day at a lightweight. So I think JoJo's faster than that and should be bigger.
Yep. I agree with all that. So switching gears to the other guys in that class. Nikar, I think somebody...
No, you're skipping over someone. You're skipping over Ray Ray.
Oh, I always skip over him because that all the other guys from that class left. Ray, excuse me. Thank you for reminding me. So Ray, having a very good camp, had a very good spring. I think his biggest strength, quick passes, make a guy miss. We saw in full contact where you could tackle guys to the ground. You see his ability to break tackles and his balance really play up, because if it's just thud or tag, you don't see their full ability to break tackles. He can break tackles, and I think he's smart. He's reliable. I think those short passes turning into big passes is really where Ray does his best work.
Yeah, yards after catch. It has to be his calling card, because that's what he has in terms of his skill set, different than some of these other guys, I think.
Yeah, kind of like different athletes. I think this guy's more just explosive down the field. Ray is probably more lateral. But like the way we used Brashard Smith before Brashard Smith left SMU and played running back, I see some similarities there where, it's really a lot of quick hitters and stuff like that. Use him to get the ball in his hands fast. That's how I see Ray. And he's class of 23. I always skip over that class. With class of 24 guys, we mentioned JoJo, Nikar. Now he's wearing number 12. Guy jumped in the portal. I wanted to keep. He ended up coming back. I think he's developing, man. You see flashes. He can run. He can make plays. With him, it's just going to be consistency. And I think it's almost like basketball. Some of these guys, you got to see the basket go through, or the ball go through the basket, and your whole approach changes. I think with some of these receivers, let's say you have a game where you get let's say it's a throwaway game. Let's say it's USF and we're winning, which is not a guarantee, right? But let's say you were playing good against USF and we're up, and he comes in and gets, 3 catches for 90 yards. Now he's in, he's rolling, and he takes off from there. I can see that with Nikar. I think he just needs kind of that jolt of having success in games, because you see flashes, but you don't see the consistency.
The Josh Allen, Judd Anderson comp has made its way into my group chats. It's being heard across law offices all throughout South Florida right now, and people are concerned for you.
Hey, as long as they're listening, they're listening. But yeah, so Nikar, I think the consistency is going to be the key. And Slapbox makes a good point. The fact that the stayed makes me think we mapped out a clear path for him to play this year. I think Miami would love a lot of these guys to play. I think it's like it was said earlier. It's going to be a by committee approach, and we're going to see who kind of elevates. Obviously, not everybody's going to be in the same standing, but everybody's going to have an opportunity to make plays in games. And I think this is one.
The beauty of practice, these practice reports, and we can see as much as we see and talk to as many people as we talk to about it. But as cliche as it is, until those lights come on, there's guys who just can't perform. And we heard, Corey Heatherman made a really good point the other day when he talked about, he said, there's guys who have had really good practices, but then when these scrimmages come, when these live game situations come, it's a different day for them. They aren't approaching things the same way. And it's a little bit, they get maybe a little bit nervous. He said this in his press conference last week. And unfortunately, you have to know that everyone who's been performing in practice is not going to perform in the game. That's high level, big time D1 football for you, right? So that's where we talk about there's going to be a rotation, but who rises? Yeah, if a guy drops a pass or has a stupid penalty, he's going to lose some reps there. That's where you're at right now. But you're going to have a bigger rotation to start than you did last year. So you have a bigger group of guys to choose from in that sense.
100%. And one guy you didn't have to choose from last year was Chance Robinson, right? Because Chance Robinson was hurt last year. My expectations were limited just because he hadn't played. So I was like, all right, we talk about him all the time on the show. Everybody asks about him, but I just got to see him. I have no comment until I see him.
You saw his reaction when I interviewed him at Media Day, and I said, man, everyone's always talking. And he said, me? What?
Yeah, he's a very popular guy. I see his family at practice said the same thing. But, man, he's really played well since he's come back, running routes at a much higher level than I knew he could. I didn't know he had that level of route running, because you see his size on the sideline. He's a big, strong guy. So you say, okay, how fluid and quick. He does have the ability to get in and out of breaks, to run routes, catches the ball, has made plays in game situations, and obviously in practice, but in competitive situations. And I'm impressed with him, man. He brings a different element as that big body receiver that has strength as a contested catch guy. These 2024 guys, someone's going to emerge in a major way. Obviously, the favorite for that will be JoJo, but I'm curious to see how these guys perform in games, because all of them, I think, whichever one of those guys, and maybe multiple of these guys, whenever they have that success, I think it's going to take off, and then they'll be getting more. Yeah, I've seen it where a guy will be kind of getting a certain amount of targets in practice, then he has a good game, then he comes back and he's getting a ton of targets in practice. Colby Young, when Colby Young was a freshman, he had a good game against UNC. This was 2022, caught like a diving pass down the sideline, caught another one for a touchdown. And he went from getting very few targets in practice to like target monster in practice, and it carried over to the game. So just one good performance, I think, could set off one of these 24 guys, and all three of them are in the mix.
Yep, agreed.
So let's finish up here. We're 1,600 on live. Let's get to the class of 2025 receivers. I love this class. We talked about it a ton. I did on that live show yesterday. I think we hit big on all of these guys. And I think this is going to be a class that's going to be a foundational class for our wide receiver room. I saw it in spring, carried over through the summer. We're seeing it here. They're healthy. They're making plays. I love this trio of freshmen, and we'll see how much they play as freshmen. I think all three of these guys have a chance to play and potentially play major roles.
Yeah, so, I love how.
Go ahead.
I just, as a whole, I like how each of them brings something a little bit different to the table. We've hyped up Malachi and Josh Moore a lot, but Dalen Upshaw belongs in that conversation. Strong day yesterday, from what I understand, and someone that's he's going to play. You know, he's not a tiny receiver. He's close to 200 pounds, like 195, 6 foot, great body control, hands. Malachi, you know, his ability to find the soft spots in the zone, and then, you know, came in ready physically, almost at 190 now. So that, and then Josh Moore jumping out of the building, high pointing the ball, the aggression that he plays with. And, you know, I think he's going to be someone who scores some touchdowns for Miami this year in important spots. And I think, yes, you're going to need 2 of these guys to be a couple of your best receivers this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's possible, just with, again, the way these guys have performed consistently since spring. These are not sort of one-hit wonders or every other practice wonders. I love Upshaw. I think Isaac mentioned he's not talked about enough. I'm a huge Upshaw fan, compared him to Allen Hurns. Just in terms, again, style. He's just a well-rounded guy. You look at the size, you look at the speed, you look at the quickness out of breaks, you look at the ability to run with the ball, you look at the ability to make contested catches, you look at the work ethic and stuff like that, toughness. He just kind of, he's a B to an A in every category. So that means you're a solid all-around player, and you're going to have a chance to play early. Josh Moore, I think, is the one that he's the freakiest one of this crew, where you see his best plays and you say wow the most on his best plays. Great catch radius. He's a legit 6'4", 210 plus. He can run. He's not a 4.4 guy, but he's not a 4.7 guy. You know, he's probably in that 4.5 range, if I had to guess, or at least when he's out of here, which for his size is great. And he's a jumper, so he's extremely springy and explosive in that way. Great catch radius, like we mentioned. Just an incredible athlete at that size, who also has been productive in his career, 1,000 yards pretty much every year in high school and on a team that wasn't that good. And he's been productive here in camp. So he's a freak of that group with that contested catch radius ability that's pretty unique. And then Malachi Toney, who, you know, the word I use with him is reliable. I made this joke in the chat that I'd throw a newborn baby at Malachi Toney and not worry about it. And, you know, he's catching that thing because he just has the instincts, the ability to speed up to the ball, to slow down for the ball, just to adjust to the ball as much as needed. The assertiveness with the ball in the air, despite being a smaller player, the great hands, ability to extend out his frame, the former quarterback. So he has the sense of kind of finding the soft spots in the zone, coming back to the ball, helping out his quarterback, that feel for space that those former quarterbacks tend to have. He has that. Also a really good punt returner. Can see him factoring in there as well. So what's not to like? Malachi Toney, I think, is going to be one of the best players on this team by the end of it if he stays healthy.
Yeah, Shannon Dawson also mentioned his feel for space in his press conference last week. So
yeah, so I'm excited to see these guys. This is a group that I just have very, very high hopes for. And I think in this era portal where you're always trying to add, this is a group I could see growing over time. And like, hey, by the time these guys are juniors, there'll be more players in the mix than just these 3. But if you're talking about these guys as part of your core, when they're juniors, you're feeling really, really good about receiver, but you don't have to wait till they're juniors. They can all make impacts right now as true freshmen.
Yeah, I don't know why I just thought about this. I always like to I said earlier, my comparison types are the former Hurricanes. And what I'll say, my last thought on receiver and CJ Daniels, I think not the same player, just like you always say. I'm not saying they're same players, but what the impact is going to be, and I think like on the room as a whole, but just what he did on the field is a KJ Osborne type for Miami. You know, KJ Osborne was a darn good receiver for Miami, was a 5th round pick, still in the league right now. And if you're getting that sort of consistent production out of him this year, then I would love that. I don't know what his numbers were that season, but you knew he was Miami's reliable target.
No question. That's, as EJ says, that's why you donate to Canes Connection, man. So yeah, fired up about this receiving room, fired up about the team. We'll continue with these position breakdowns as the week goes on. We'll do 3 more tomorrow. Also, before we go, want to remind everybody this Friday, 4 to 5 p.m., meet and greet Miami Hurricane Team Store, Mario Cristobal. Once in a season, this is the first time I've seen him do this. This is like a once in an era opportunity here to meet Mario Cristobal at the Miami Hurricane Team Store, Friday, August 22nd, 4 to 5 p.m. Show up there, right there next to the University of Miami. Then afterwards or before, you could shop using promo code INSIGHT20, get 20% off your first item. Jobs, money, and orders will be there. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Almost 1,700 on. Like and subscribe. Get some more comparisons here. That Josh Allen, Judd Anderson comp will be misquoted for years to come. So, yeah, man, we'll see how it goes. We have fun tomorrow.
Yes, sir. All right, D. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned. Hit that like, subscribe. Go Canes.
Go Canes.